Good afternoon. Thank you everybody for your patience. As you all know, we had an officer-involved shooting this morning, and we've lost just a wonderful human being here at the hospital. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have Mayor Turner make some comments, then we're going to walk everyone through what occurred and what's going to happen from this point forward. So with that, Mayor Turner, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Chief, and I will tell you, this is not where any of us would want to be at this moment in time. I want to start off by thanking Sergeant Harold Preston. I want to thank him, and we want to celebrate his life of service and commitment and dedication to the city. Some 41 years that he's been a police officer with the city of Houston. And I want us to lift up his family. Specifically, I want us to lift up his young daughter. I want us to lift up his mom and his dad and other relatives and friends and loved ones. And certainly I want us to lift up the men and women of the Houston Police Department in our city, because it is a family. Pray for our city. And then for Officer Courtney Waller. His injuries do not appear to be life-sustaining, threatening, but want to lift him up and ask for a total and complete recovery for him, someone who's been with the police force for 3 years. Let me say, each and every day, our police officers enter some very unsafe conditions, especially when we're dealing with situations, let's say, of domestic violence, domestic disturbance. And so it's a dangerous job. They place their lives on the line every day. But the moment for today, I want us to lift up these families, and specifically the family of Sergeant Harold Preston. There are a lot of people knew him, and not just police officers, but a lot of people knew him as much of a commitment he gave to this city. He gave equal or greater commitment to his parents and to his family. So I'm asking the city to just continue to pray. Just a few days ago, we were here for the arson investigator, Lemire Bruce, and we continue to pray for his family. 2020 is a tough year. 2020 is a tough year. And what will get us through is that we have to depend and rely on each other, and then we have to rely on a force greater than ourselves. For myself, I place my strength in God. I continue to pray, and just like I ask you to pray for our city and for our men and women on the front line, whether they're police officers or firefighters or municipal workers, we have to just pray ourselves. So let's continue to lift up these families. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for being here with us like you always are. And thank you for lifting up our officers in prayer and our families in prayer and leading the prayer this afternoon. We're very blessed to live in a city that is a city of faith and a city that comes together unlike no other city in the country, especially when the going gets tough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give the community, I'm going to walk you through what occurred this morning, and then we'll open it up to questions. So this morning, at about 7:55 a.m., the Houston Police Department received a call of a disturbance, unknown weapon, domestic violence type situation in the 2600 block of Holly Hall, which is in Southwest Command of the Houston Police Department. The call was dispatched at 8:05, and our first units arrived at 8:15 a.m. Two officers, Officer Taylor and Officer Courtney Waller. Officer Taylor's a 5-year officer, and Officer Waller's a 3-year officer, and one sergeant, Harold Preston, who has 41 years of service. Upon arrival, officers were met by the female complainant, who is the estranged wife, significant other of our suspect. She indicated she was moving out and she wanted to be able to get some items from the apartment. HPD actually had 2 other previous service calls over the weekend before she wanted to get her things so she could leave and unfortunately the door was locked and he wasn't letting her in. The officers were there with everything was calm out in the parking lot talking to the complainant for close to an hour, trying to get some background information. And at one point, at about 9:25 or shortly before, the suspect's 14-year-old son, who was with the mom outside in the parking lot, unlocked the door and opened the door. When he opens the door, I've reviewed body-worn camera. He sees that the son sees that the dad has armed himself with a firearm and tells the officer he has a gun. The suspect immediately engaged officers, shooting multiple rounds at officers, striking Officer Courtney Waller in the arm and striking Sergeant Preston multiple times. At 9:25 a.m., officers put out an assistance call. Officer needs help, shots fired call. And SWAT, Fox, which is our air operations, helicopters, and K-9 immediately responded. At about 9:31 a.m., responding officers put together a quick react team and were able to safely move Sergeant Preston away from the front door area of the apartment while the suspect remained armed inside the apartment. At 9:32, HFD ambulance arrived at the scene and transported Sergeant Preston, Officer Waller, and the 14-year-old young son of the suspect. The son went to Texas Children, and Officer Waller and Sergeant Preston came here to Herman. At about 10:26 a.m., the suspect looked out the window, saw the heavy police presence. By that time, SWAT had surrounded the apartment, had it well contained. They had taken over from patrol, and he came out and surrendered, and an elderly female came out after the suspect exited. The son was also shot, I believe, in the arm. He was transported to the Children's Hospital, and again, Sergeant Preston was brought here along with Courtney Waller. I want to give a special thanks to several people before we keep going. One is to the Houston Fire Department. When I arrived on that scene, I thought it had been an earthquake with so much fire equipment that was there prepared to help our officers and to help any civilian that might have come into harm's way with that suspect that was in there. The teamwork was phenomenal, and I want to thank them for their quick arrival and taking our 2 employees, our sergeant, our officer, and that young boy to the hospital in very short order. As far as this hospital, we all know that if they can't save you at Herman Memorial Herman, you can't be saved anywhere. And I want to just give a special thanks to Dr. Laura Moore, who's here with us, the trauma surgeon that worked on our sergeant. She won't be speaking, but she did want to stand with us. Unfortunately, his wounds were not survivable. He was shot more than once in the head and also received a gunshot to the shoulder area that embedded in his spine. I can tell you that, thank God, we were able to keep him alive in time for his mother, who I absolutely know. It's a wonderful family. His 23-year-old daughter and other family members that were able to come here, including his fiance and his ex-wife, who's here with the daughter and said it's the love of her life and he's a wonderful person. I would just say this about Sergeant Preston. This man's been around for 41 years, and people throw out the word hero all the time. And I'm not calling him a hero because the way he died today, but he is a hero. He's a guy that's in his 60s, 41 years, and he's leading from where we want our sergeants to lead, from the front. He's leading with his men and women on the streets instead of choosing to sit in an office drinking coffee and reading the paper. That's the man he was. He's a man that lived with his elderly parents, who I've told you I've met before, and takes care of his elderly parents. as good as he was as a cop, he was a better human being. That's just the guy that he was, and we're going to miss him. But we're very blessed that this family is a family of faith. And the strength from his mother right now up there, I think, has given us, we're all drawing strength from that mother. Because our cops have to understand if a mother can bury a son, this department will bury a colleague, will bury a hero. Let me tell you about Courtney Waller. He's a twin. When my mayor brought me here, I got to meet him and his brother who was working on HISD. Sorry, I stole them from you, Chief Lopez, and helped recruit them and bring them over. They're great young men, and they do great work. And I'm glad and I'm grateful that he and the little boy are going to survive. Members of the Houston Special Investigations Unit, the District Attorney's Office, and Internal Affairs are all on the scene. Our tactics unit from the Academy are on the scene, where we will digest all of this incident from beginning to end to see if there are any lessons learned from a tactical perspective. And the SIU will conduct the criminal investigation that I would venture that we will probably be charging this suspect with murder. Let me tell you really quickly about the suspect, and then we'll open it up to questions, and then we'll talk about the next steps. The suspect is Elmer, E-L-M as in Mary, E-R, Manzano. It is spelled M as in Mary, A as in Apple, N as in Nancy, Z as in Zoo, A as in Apple, N as in Nancy, O as in Ocean. He's a 51-year-old Hispanic male Salvadorian. And he has a criminal history that I'm not going to worry about to discuss right now. Suffice it to say that a guy that requires the response of the police multiple times for abusing his family is not a good character. And we're not going to talk about that today. Our department did go, again, to calls for service a couple of times over the weekend on 10/18 and on 10/20 for family disturbances. But no charges were taken at that time by the District Attorney's Office. And the suspect's wife reported a family disturbance at the Southwest Station on October 17th. What we're going to do here after this is we have our honor guard here, we have our officers here. We're going to escort our fallen comrade to the medical examiner's office, and then we'll start planning for this celebration of a life well lived. It breaks your heart that here we are less than a week after investigator Bruce was murdered in our city by another suspect. The suspect, again, was transported with, when he came out because he had a gunshot wound to the abdominal area and exchange of gunfire. And so now we have to piece together what occurred between the suspect, our officers, and also the young man that was shot. I'm glad that it appears that he's going to be fully recovering. So with that, we're going to open it up. But again, we'll be probably moving here within the hour to the ME's office. And then we're going to continue preparing with our brothers and sisters at Houston Fire to honor Investigator Bruce on Thursday. And then shortly thereafter, obviously, we'll have to honor Sergeant Preston, who's, it's a big loss. A lot of tears being shed. With that, we'll open it up to questions.
There's so many people who are watching who care about these officers. Can you, your message to those, maybe it's family, maybe it's loved ones, maybe it's friends who are watching this, your message to their loved ones?
To our officers, well, they're here. I mean, most of the family is here, but the extended family just know that Sergeant Preston, I don't need to tell them. They know the quality of the human being that we lost here today. They know the quality of a son we lost here today, of a father, of an uncle, of a friend. They don't come much better. And it's pretty bizarre. I know you're probably thinking, well, that's what the police always say every time an officer gets murdered. But the truth is that the ones that work the hardest are the ones most at risk. So that's why it's frequently that when we have someone murdered in the line of duty, that we say all those good things because it's the truth. You know, if he was mediocre, I certainly wouldn't be saying the things I'm saying right now. So tell him that he was surrounded by family. He was with his mom. He was with his loved ones. His closest family was there when he breathed his last breath, and he was not alone. And now he's going to be surrounded by his HPD family, as is Sergeant Preston's family. Yes.
Chief, we're looking at some of the documents provided by the District Attorney's Office and the police call for service for yesterday. It appears that the DA's office said they were prepared to take some charges for the police officers at the scene. Didn't think a crime was committed yesterday.
You know what? We just lost of somebody. I'm not going to worry about that. Like I said, we'll worry about all those issues later. I can't speak to that. That's part of the investigation.
I'm only asking because you mentioned that the charges were taken.
Yeah, we'll look at it.
Clarification.
No, we'll look at it. It's too soon in the investigation to be able to say. You know, I know he has a criminal history because I just looked at it, but that'll be part of our what we call our profile on the suspect. Where we'll go back a minimum of 48, if not longer. We will investigate his entire existence here as far as we can, and we will. That'll be part of the criminal investigation.